that's where my wife, oh, look, I love this shirt. This thought leader in shopping or whatever she's looking into has spent time doing all this so I don't have to. I'm going to see what she likes. I like her style. I trust her. How do we translate that? Maybe not with a swipe up link, but maybe. I think we're crazy if we're not doing that or thinking about how to do that better and professionally.
Hey, welcome back to the Accelerate Your Insurance Sales podcast. Andy Neary here, founder and CEO of Complete Game Consulting. I'm excited today. I've got Jack Grovenstein joining me from Palmer Cay down in the Peach State of Georgia. Jack, welcome to the podcast.
Andy, happy to be here.
Jack, partner, Palmer Cay. We're going to have a great conversation today just about the insurance landscape, what's going on in the industry, where you see it going. But how I love to start every episode is with a look back. There may be some folks tuning in who have no clue who Jack Grovenstein is. You're one of the few, I have to admit, that went to college for risk management.
That's right.
Now, typically, I hear it when it's a second, third generation insurance professional, but I don't believe that's the case with you. Is that correct?
That is not the case. I always find it interesting and fun to see, hey, how did you get into this industry? How did you get here? And the stories are, as you know, Andy, are all over the place and usually interesting. I know yours is too, right? But no, I joke with everyone. I'm a glutton for punishment because I chose this industry. There's actually, believe it or not, there is a major for risk management insurance, and University of Georgia, where I graduated, takes a lot of pride in it. It's ranked number one for what that's worth. I'm sure it's out of 20 other colleges, but still number one nonetheless. But all kidding aside, nothing, this is a great industry and, nothing good comes easy. It has its challenges, as you know, Andy, and that's what you help, a lot of companies with. But man, am I glad I got into it.
Yeah, it's actually, I didn't think about that until you just said, so you went to the University of Georgia for risk management. And one of my favorite clients that I've had the chance to work with, Madison Baker, who's a commercial producer over at Marsh McLennan out of Dallas, also went to the University of Georgia for risk management. So one of the probably 8 or 9 that I've met that went to college for this, she also went to Georgia. I didn't realize it was the top risk management program in the country.
Humble brag. I think it's started to be ranked number one after I graduated. So,
well, which also means you are a Georgia Bulldog. That's right. You have had a lot to be happy about over the last few years when it comes to college football.
Yeah, it's been a really good run. Yeah,
I haven't. I didn't intend to ask you this question, but I am going to ask, and I don't know how much of a diehard you are. What are your thoughts on the new college football landscape? Just the way NIL, this is the way the whole sport works now. It's pretty much professional football. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I try to be a glass half full guy, and it's definitely different. And you can make an argument. It's been probably tougher for the blue blood programs, which I consider Georgia to be part of, and that it's certainly even the playing field. But man, look at this. I had my doubts, but look at the season, though. I mean, it's gotten where every game mattered. That was the worry. Is every game going to matter? But no, it turns out parity is good. Competition is good. And it's exciting to watch. I'm tuning to games I wasn't before. And I honestly think they'll expand the playoffs. And I think that will be good for everybody.
Well, and we can sit here and argue as much as we want that they should just take the top teams from the SEC and the top teams from the Big Ten and create their own conference. But then you look at it and you go, wait, Indiana's number 2 in the country right now. Georgia Tech is in the top 10. It's like there are still teams that you would not think would have success in this new program, in this new style, that are having a lot of success.
Absolutely.
And I say that as a very, very frustrated Wisconsin Badger fan.
Y'all get back there. Yeah, y'all get back.
Anyways, we're not here to talk college football. We are here to talk insurance. But you're at Palmer Cay. If you don't mind, I'll be honest, before you and I met, I did not know a whole lot about Palmer Cay, but why don't you give a little history of the agency? It's been around for quite a long time.
It has, and we are very proud of it. We are what I like to call Palmer Cay 2.0. So, the history does date back to 1868. It founded in Savannah, and, it's been family owned since then, or at least I think we're on our 5th or 6th generation. back in, the early 2000s, 2005, Palmer Cay 1.0 got an offer they just could not refuse. This is back during the time where the big banks were want to get into the insurance. So at the time, Wachovia approached, Palmer Cay and said, look, just they backed up the truck and said, look, we'll give you this, at the time, this, absurd offer. It's since gotten even more crazy since then. But up until that point, Palmer Cay had built itself again at the time. This is before private equity really got into the business. And we were, the second or third largest privately held brokerage shop. I think locked in was more, had more of the West Coast locked down, but we certainly in the Southeast and up the Eastern Seaboard built quite the name and reputation for ourselves. And that was attractive to Wachovia. Fast forward soon thereafter, Wachovia, there was a financial crisis. Wachovia got absorbed by Wells Fargo. And so that Palmer Cay, through that transition, the naming rights to Palmer Cay either went transferred over, they didn't keep those in that transition. So the Kays were able to get that naming rights back. All that goodwill built up. We were able to start Palmer Cay 2.0 in 2010, and it's kind of a refresh, but getting back to where we once been is where it's certainly our goal. So it's a unique scenario. It's so interesting. I kind of nerd out on this. Just the insurance trees. We were talking about football earlier, right? You see the coaching trees. Well, it's so interesting to go back and look at the insurance tree. Like, okay, that cell initial Palmer Cay 1.0, after that, naturally, not everyone wants to work with big bank. You saw split off, so that started Seacrest. Some people split off, started Seacrest. They locked in Atlanta office. Some people went over there, Ironwood. You start drawing those connections and see, how many great professionals came out or had a great experience in Palmer Cay and carries as well. It's a really cool story. And
well, it says a lot about the 1.0 version of the agency, just like a coaching tree, right? Like you look at a Nick Saban. How many coaches have come out of Nick Saban's coaching tree and had tremendous success? Probably not to his level, but good success. Urban Meyer, other people like that. The same, that is a sign of what was a strong agency, is if the executives and the people who may have come out of that agency have now gone on to start their own and also have thriving agencies. That says a lot about where they came from.
That's right.
Yeah, what made you join? Because I believe, did you join Palmer Cay 2020?
That's right. Yeah.
What made you make the decision of wanting to become part of the Palmer Cay culture?
Yeah, looking back, 2020, obviously COVID year. At the time, I was a producer at USI. Prior experience leading up to that, I've been, at Aon, big publicly traded company, boutique. I've been at a boutique firm. 2020 was just a good year of just self-reflection too, right? My second child was born. The world's gone crazy. I was looking back. Okay, how can I? I have the unique experience and benefit of seeing different models. As I matured myself, I learned, what works best for me, what works best for my clients. And during that time, I said, I had some success at USI before the golden handcuffs, or it became too hard for me to move, or at least that inertia kind of stuck me there. I was like, okay, I need to just take a quick evaluation of what's going on. I saw the benefit firsthand of what being at a private company could do, right? Albeit the first boutique round, it was 8 employees. But okay, what does that look like when, you have some resources behind that as well? After looking at several competitors too, doing a deep evaluation, it just became abundantly clear, Palmer Cay was that unicorn, the history, the integrity, the people there, it really does start at the top. Jack Kay, was a big part of that, bringing me over. Such a great guy, so well known in the industry. And then all throughout the organization, just seeing the talent they had there, the resources. I mean, that's what it's about when you're in production. It really does take a village. You can strong arm and will as much as you can, but being a leader on the team, leading the team, and having that team, right there with you and incentivized for everyone to win. That's what that private model does. And it blew me out of the water, and it honestly is the best move I ever made. I'm very thankful to have
I
done it.
actually wanted to ask you your opinion on that because you see a lot of producers in the industry who hop from one big public to the other, right? They may go from
Mhm.
Marsh to Lockton to IMA to Aon to USI, and they kind of stay up in that public big house. What was the experience looking back now, 5 years? What would you say were some of the biggest changes or I don't want to use the word adjustment, but just for you beneficially, some of the changes you witnessed by going to more of a private organization?
Yeah, there's pros and cons with anything. Obviously, you have there's name brand, right? But I would argue Palmer Cay has some of that cachet too. I think there's a natural fear. It's like, hey, can we work on big clients? Can we do that? Now certainly there's something to be said if you want to work with publicly traded company, clients, those size clients. Guess people like to buy with or work with people that are just like them, right? So if you want to stay in that publicly traded level, look, there's some benefit to that. Companies want to work with companies that are like them. But what I liked is, being at those middle market, those large private companies, I saw an opportunity. Like, can we bring some of this stuff that we're doing at Aon down midstream or at the larger shops and provide, those services, that expertise, self-funding, those types of solutions down to the upper middle market. And there was a need there. So again, it depends on what you want to do. But there's certainly benefits, especially if you're with a firm that has the same resources when you really, peel back the onion, that the larger shops do.
Yeah, I say this, and I know this comes probably with a little pushback from some of my peers who work at the big publicly traded houses. I think because we're experiencing a time now where even the big boys are purchasing each other.
Yeah.
I think it presents a really big opportunity for those large regional independents like Palmer and Kay, because I think employers are going to slowly and eventually get frustrated with this constant acquisition activity that's going on up here. And I feel like it's a race to who can be the biggest, but that does present opportunity for organizations like yours. When you look at, I'd love your perspective on growth right now, because a lot of agencies are still focused, I'd say, on M&A being their primary source of growth. What is Palmer Kay's approach to organic growth?
Yeah.
And what are you guys doing to still ensure that you are sustaining good organic growth?
Yeah. It's organic growth over everything for us, right? We're still at that size where, while we are looking now, acquisitions and more investments, keeping our eye out on that because there was a lot of opportunities still in that space. If you can't grow organically, what are you doing? You want to have that it's the lifeblood of our industry. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. Now, acquisitions is certainly a way to do that, but it's to do it well, it's a talent to keep your same culture, the same quality, the same, ideals and values. When you keep bolting on, that becomes harder and harder to do. So organic growth is extremely important to us and it's a major focus. So, look, we have a baseline growth of we want to grow at least 15% organic year over year. There may be years where there's lift, there's not. We can't count on that. So we need to track just pure new business, at least 15%. And look, if we do that, you grow 15% a year, you're going to double in 5 years.
Mhm.
It's simple math. And now we'll have years, where we grow, like last year, we grew 27%. That's great. What we've been trying to focus on is, we noticed with that growth, we got 27, 30, 40%. Those are big years. Sometimes we'll have some digestion issues, right? Yeah, our model works. Producers are very hands-on. We have a lot, we have AEs and account managers we've added, but still we want to make sure we take care of the client that we brought in, do what we say we're going to do. Well, that sometimes has an outstanding impact in the pipeline, at our size, when we have 10, 12 producers and everyone had a good year, when we're still digesting that business, well, we got to make sure we're backfilling the resources, ideally ahead of time, planning for that. So a big thing for us has been going to, we really turn the notch on Salesforce. We've always had it, but what we're doing and how we're using it, it's you could probably do a whole other podcast on that, getting producers to actively use Salesforce. And look, the bigger shops have done a good job at that. We need to catch up. Um, you alluded to earlier, some of the reasons we were able to pull from, bigger shops is maybe they're trying to get away from, hey, someone looking over my shoulder. Well, as we've grown and hit this certain plateau, we've got to act and run a business like a business should be run. That's a pipeline, that's forecasting, that's getting the talent, the resources in ahead of time. And that's been a big thing we focused on. So
yeah, you bring up a good point. I admit when I was a producer, I was at a time probably guilty of why should I be filling out the CRM the way you want me to? Do you want me selling or being good at putting the information in the CRM? But I can tell you now that I run a business, I'm like, oh, I get it now. I get why tracking this stuff is important.
Yeah.
But let's talk about producers, because obviously if you're going to hit your organic growth goals, you've got to have the right producers. And let's be honest, I think we all could agree today it can be a challenge to find the right talent. If you wouldn't mind sharing, I'd love to hear, like, when you're out looking for new producers, are there certain characteristic traits you're looking for? What do you look for in a producer that you think might be a good fit for the Palmer Cay culture?
Yeah, it's a tough job. It's, it's not just like
People interview well, right? A lot of people interview well, so it can be misleading.
It can be misleading. And, we've done, personality tests. We still do those, sales acumen test just to see if, are they built for it? Those, we take those aren't the end all be all either. It's a really tough, it's certainly, it's an art, not a science. And a lot of time it has to be guts. I mean, we do everything, referrals. It's hard to find good producers. And we've gone through, like, let's uncover every stone. Like, what are we missing? Is it, other B2B sales that we can bring in, train? Do we start young? We start a producer associate program, so you can train and mentor. So either someone 3 years into B2B sales or just newer in their career, maybe somewhere else, bring them on, or right out of college, maybe they work here a year, learn the industry a little bit. Then they say, hey, I want to try this producer thing. So we have a stepping stone for there. So to try to grow that organically the way we want. But, and then there's outside, obviously there's, we all know the top producers and good producers that have proven, but those are never easy or, cheap to bring over. Right. So it really is a problem. So we try to hiring techniques, a lot of interviews, trying to get to know just the person inside. Right. We have certain values, integrity, we're Bulldogs, both Georgia Bulldog fans, but we really fight for our clients. We want that kind of tenacity all across the board, but especially in our producers, right?
Yep.
You got to find yes in this business. You got to find solutions. You can't give up, that grit. It's hard to, no matter how many interviews, it's hard to figure that out. We do our best at that, but I guess a long way of answering your question, we're looking at every avenue of, okay, how can we develop that internally as well? Get the new crop of producers in, look elsewhere as well. They have good sales acumen. They know how to be sales professionals, but how do we, let's build some, apparatus to help teach them the business and as well as sell what we sell, which it can be honest, it's a harder sell. It's an intangible product we're selling. We're selling trust. We're selling service. Those things are hard to just show in a first meeting. And it takes a certain skill set for sure.
Well, and I, we sell a product that they have to have.
Yep.
And we're trying to replace somebody they probably like.
Yeah, we got someone fired. Yeah.
And that that itself lends to a longer sales cycle, especially if you're selling B2B. And it is that resilience to make sure they don't forget who you are, that eventually you chip away and build enough credibility and maybe some doubt with what they're doing today to open that door to have that conversation. But like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. And I think that is tough for some people who make that transition, especially if they sold in another industry. I know people who've hired, reps from the tech industry and things like that, where things are more quick transactional sales. Doesn't work that way in this industry.
No, does not translate always for sure. So
You've had a lot of sales success in your own career. I actually would love to hear, when you look back on the time you've spent in the industry, who have been some of your mentors that have helped you get to where you are today? And what are some of the lessons you've learned along the way in that have allowed you to have the success in sales that you've had?
yeah, I feel like I could do a whole podcast on just my mentors. I've been so blessed. And, like my career spanned again, several different companies, start out actually on the benefit side, that's something near and dear to your heart, Andy, I know, but, start out with Sun Life Financial as a group sales rep. So built some sales acumen there. Of course, you're selling to brokers. Um, then from there, I went to, Aon. There's where Obamacare came along. I realized I wanted to be on the brokerage side, have more impact with the client. Learned property and casualty there, and from there, went to the boutique broker side. One, 8-person shop where you're rolling up your sleeves, and then in production, and then the Palmer Cay. So along the way, each one of those stops, man, Paul Danielson at Sun Life Financial, told me, sales techniques, how to be confident, go into Aon, Kathleen Murphy, Andrew T. Garden. I mean, slapping down policies and say, hey, we're going through these line by line. You're going to learn that words matter. And, one word here changes the whole policy. And like, we got to be detail oriented. The policy must respond, beating that in my head on the property and casualty side to Pete and Marshallati, I mean, that 8-person shop boutique brokerage, we were hitting way above our belt with clients that Marsh and Aon want, it was oil and gas. We're traveling a lot, but in large manufacturing, but they showed me the grit it takes to be independent and private and, what you have to do to fight for your clients. All of these people poured into me and the list goes on. I mean, Keith Titshaw at USI, and Jack Kay at Palmer Cay. The list, I honestly, I'm so blessed to have these people pour into me. And I try to remember that as much as I can. I know time is a precious thing, but man, I got, anywhere I can, I try to get back and do that myself.
Well,
And,
as I say, I'm
never
assuming
forget
today you
that.
obviously serve as a mentor to
Yeah.
some people within your own organization. What is some advice you would give a new producer today? Maybe somebody who is coming into the industry for the first time. Maybe they've sold either coming right out of college, or they've sold, a different type of product, whether it be payroll, technology, you name it. What advice would you give them if they're asking you, "Hey, Jack, what does it take to be successful in this industry?"
Yeah. You have to invest in yourself and you have to know your product. I know it's easy to say, oh, I'm just the sales guy. I mean, I think, and again, it depends on what model you're in and what organization you're in, but certainly I think on the privately held company side, what we're doing independent side, you need to know your stuff. People are hiring you, your trustworthiness, so be upfront and honest. It's a small industry, things will get around. And then two, know your stuff. They're at the end of the day, they're hiring because they trust you, they like you, and your intellectual capital, right? What are you bringing to the table? Are you educating them? Are you making something that they don't really want to like to think about, or we use all these words and are you making it easy for them to understand, and are you educating them? So to do that, you got to be an expert yourself. So again, either through mentors, self-study, all of the above, just keep learning what's out there. What are the unique solutions? How do we solve these problems? It's a full-time job and I'm always learning still. So I guess just never stop learning, work on, your personal brand, your trust, be known for that, your integrity, because that will follow you around.
Yeah, what you said speaks to my heart because when you look at what we're trying to accomplish right now, the investing in yourself is it's what differentiates the best from the rest. We work with a lot of producers in the insurance industry, and we have a lot of people who are interested in our services, but quickly say, well, I'm going to see if my boss will pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I hear that, I know they're not a fit, because if they're not committed to put their own skin in the game, That just doesn't tell me that tells me they're not committed enough to really want to make this. If you're letting somebody else's decision dictate you getting the help you need, you're not as committed as you might think you are. And I'm sure you've gotten where you've got through personal investment and development. And I look at the people who have greatly succeeded in this industry, and a lot of it starts with the foundation of investing. They're not expecting somebody else to do it for them.
Yeah, it pays off in dividends and spades. Just do it.
Yeah,
That'd be my advice. Yeah, and never stop doing it. None of us are perfect.
So as I'm curious, as you look ahead, to the next 5 or 10 years, do you see any, great, dare I ask the obvious question, where do you see AI playing a big part in the sales process for insurance agencies? I think it's gonna replace people, right? That's the thing everybody has been talking about for a few years now. But where do you see the opportunities, if any, in how AI could enhance the organic growth at Palmer Cay?
Yeah, I'm bullish on AI. At least for our industry, I'm hopeful we can work alongside it and not necessarily be replaced. We've been using it more as hey, you know where can we get rid of redundancies? Where can we create efficiencies? And I think certainly that's where the stage we're at in AI now. And who knows, we may be having robots sell insurance. Yeah, who knows? Maybe. I hope not. But at the end of the day, what gives me, I don't know if this is good or bad, what gives me lets me sleep at night a little bit is like just knowing, certainly on the property and casualty side. I mean, I won't call it inefficient, but look, Lloyd's in London they're still at a desk underwriting quotes, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
markets, there's 1,000 markets, and maybe one day someone can figure that out, but it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a little while. So I think we may lag a little bit behind the robots handling insurance, but we'll see. But right now, man, I'm bullish on it, and it's really cool to see the techniques and what it can do. And look, we've always had software, and we've always been trying to adopt the software earlier, but this just takes that on steroids, right?
Mhm.
Now we have been very cautious when it comes like, hey, it's a tool. Just like when we were growing up, hey, the internet, it's a tool, it's not the Bible, right? You remember, it's
Oh, and that
it's
internet
out
thing,
there.
that's a fad. That won't be around that long. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's right. It is a tool, so
Yeah.
it's not. Even AI can do a whole lot more than that, and use it a resource, check it, right? Just because we have something, check a policy
Yep.
for us. It's not the Bible, at least not yet. There's still errors, and we still need to compensate for that. On the sales side, yeah, man. I mean, there's always been these data aggregate tools, but we've had some interesting agents and things brought to us that are intriguing.
Mhm.
I do worry, trying to stay ahead of the curve. We already know, and Andy, you touched on this so well. So it really resonated with me. It's like in this world, we have to be different. And
Yeah.
CFOs are already getting inundated LinkedIn messages and cold outreach. The numbers have gone. You have the numbers off the top of your head, but the numbers are down.
Mhm.
What is that going to look like when you have AI bots
Mhm.
reaching out to these people? So what do we need to do to stay ahead of that? Cold outreach has got to. It may just someone's going to figure out a way to block that or filter that or stay ahead of that as well for their C-suite. What do we need to do to stay ahead of that? And I think Andy, your approach is so good. I mean, marketing is important, and then some old school techniques, right? So face to
Well, and I
face,
think,
getting out
what's
there.
interesting about that though, Jack, is there's such a spectrum here that I've had agencies tell me as recently as a week or two ago that they're still evaluating their stance on AI,
Yeah,
which is I'm like, wait, you're evaluating, like the train is right behind you, and can you not hear the whistle? Like this isn't should we use it or not?
no, it's happening.
But
It's
at the
here.
same time, the more it becomes mainstream in the industry or in general, the more important it will become that they still recognize you're human. And what I mean by that is whether that is as something as tactical as using AI for cold outreach, for email, for social media, you name it, you have to make sure it looks and sounds as human as possible.
That's right.
And to your point, I heard AI described as it's automating the mundane so you can focus on the meaningful.
I love that. Yeah, that's right.
And if done right, it's going to allow producers to spend more time in a meaningful conversation. One thing we've been telling our clients is if I were doing a sales meeting right now with a prospect, whether it's virtual or in person, I'd get their approval. I'd be recording the call.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it means I have my laptop on the desk recording. Why? Because it's going to make my follow-up so much more effective. But now I can be fully present in the meeting because I got something taking notes for me.
That's right.
Like little tools like that go such a long way for somebody in sales where they can be totally focused on what is meaningful to make the sale.
That's right. Then take that feeds right to Salesforce, and that solves that whole input. And I don't want to fill out notes and track that. The more we can automate the stuff, especially on the producer side, that and look, I was one of them that we complain about, the better it's going to be for everybody. And that's what I'm excited about. Some of the back, even on the accounting side, we've got some cool AI software there too, where that's actually kind of scary because that kind of has replaced, that is the one scenario where I can say like, oh yeah, that account receivables, maybe, it's kind of crazy what it can do. Like, we don't need as many of those now. And that it's wild, but that's what we're looking at. And there's so many good programs, niche programs that we've gotten involved in. We try to stay ahead of that. We always take the meetings and the sales pitches just because we want to know what's out there.
Mhm.
Is it better than what we have? Do we need to keep an eye on it, et cetera? So
Yeah. What are your thoughts? You brought up the fact that you have to look different, to a CFO or a CEO to get attention today. What is your opinion on that? If an advisor asks you, "Hey Jack, what can I do to stand out in the market today?" Because they have talked to 300 other people like me, or at least they're getting hit up by 300 other advisors like me. What can I do to stand out? What would be your advice?
yeah, I mean, unique programs, unique solutions, um, creativity, hopefully, I always like to, find what is the problem? What is the pain point? They took a meeting for a reason. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you can, most you can do, look, you got to be prepared. These meetings are hard to get, and as much information and background you can get when you get the meeting, when you set the meeting, prepping for the meeting, understanding their business, all of that moves the needle. You get one shot, and you need to stand out. You need to figure out where the pain point is. People buy on emotions if you think about it. So he said, well, I'm fine. I was like, well, even the questions to say, okay, well, when the broker does this, they don't do that. Even you're fully insured, are you getting your claims information? Well, you should be, how do you make decisions? How do you know if you're ready to move up in plane design or take that risk? And, those types of questions, first meeting can be discovery, to try to find or develop the pain points. But that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. And then the creative solutions, hey, I'm a broker, I'm awesome. you know, uh, we can save you money. They've heard that a million times and
Yep.
probably been burned by that.
Yep.
So credibility, is another thing. Examples, it's tough to establish credibility the first time when you're cold calling
Yep.
or in the email. There's ways to do that. And look, we're certainly not saying, hey, don't cold emails and outreach. It still should be part of the solution. I just wonder, how much, of that, will it be as bots start doing it, and how effective will these AI agents be? I don't know. I think you could train to be good. And I think that could be, again, part of it, but how can you be different? Whether getting the meeting, and I think some of the old school tactics, being out in front, I always like to say, staying out in traffic. We're humans, we're relationships. So be where the CEOs are, be where the CFOs are.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well, and there's actually a lot in what you just said that I hope people heard. When somebody takes a meeting with you, they're willing to give up 30, 45, 60 minutes of their time. There's a reason. One of the questions I used to love to ask in a prospecting meeting was, I'm curious, what intrigued you to take the meeting? It's a question that we overlook so often, but there is a reason. If you ask that simple question, they're going to give you a lot of gold.
Yeah. And I think we're afraid to ask that question. Like, hey, I'm just glad you took the meeting. I want to remind you why, why you took it. But Put yourself on the limb. There's a reason.
Mhm.
And the quicker you can uncover that, the better it's going to be for everybody.
Yeah. No, that's very, very well said. The other thing you said there that I wanted people to hear was it's about uncovering their problems, not necessarily what you want to talk about.
That's right.
And I think a lot of producers go into that meeting with that mindset of I'm excited to be able to talk about this and share my knowledge on this without asking, but is that what they want to hear right now?
That's right.
You have to
And
make
you
it all
may,
about them.
and sometimes you assume, oh, I sent this as an cold email and, this solution. And maybe, maybe they want to talk about just that. Maybe not. Maybe they were intrigued by that and that's a part of it. But yeah, you just can't go in, even if that's how you got the meeting or that's how you think you got the meeting. You don't want to assume. And more questions, the better.
Well, and it's funny, Jack, I have to share this. So, you mentioned a few minutes ago how we prospect has changed, right? When I got in 23 years ago, it was basically pick up the phone, smile and dial. Email was still fairly new at that point. A lot more effective back then than it is today. And I had made a post. I shared a video from a woman who is the VP of benefits at Albertson Groceries, so Fortune 500 company. And she had posted a video on LinkedIn that said, "Listen, if you want my attention and you're trying to sell me something right now, the odds of you getting my attention by calling me or sending me an email are extremely low.
Yeah.
But if you put out content on LinkedIn that I find valuable, you have given yourself the best chance to get my attention." That's basically what she said. And I put that out. I shared it and I said, I hope every sales leader of every agency in this industry hears this. I still got pushback on that
Really?
from sales leaders and people in the industry that said, must be nice that she has enough time to look at LinkedIn, but not enough time to go in her inbox.
Gotta be kidding me. Yeah.
And I was like, you obviously missed what she said. You missed the point, but you're
Yeah.
so bought into how you used to do it.
You know?
You are unwilling to even consider there is a different way to prospect today. And that I would say is a challenge at large in the industry. Is I think we're still very proud of the way we did it in the 90s, not understanding our buyers' attention has shifted.
Yep.
And so what I would love to hear from you, because we are making a big shift right now. I think the average age in this industry is still 59, 60 years old, but we're going to have a mass migration here, mass retirement. How do we get younger producers? How do we continue to bring younger producers into the industry so we can make sure this thing continues to thrive in the future?
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, I just want to touch on that last point. I mean, that's so great. I love hearing feedback from that, especially with buyers or CFOs. And her story is very common when I hear as well. And email sucks. Everyone knows that. I hate, I get a million emails. I cannot imagine my CFOs I work with, right? There's whole industries built around trying to get less email, Slack, Teams. I mean, no one likes email. And look, when I came along, it was LinkedIn, and that was very effective there for a little while. Then you see that shift. We have to stay ahead.
Yep.
Now, look, I am never saying don't pick up the, we want to encourage people to pick up the phone or
Yep.
there's different ways to communicate. Do some research on your buyer, try to gauge, hey, even in different age groups, you shouldn't assume, but people like different communication styles. Should we probably try to touch them all? It's not going to hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
But man, cold call. When I say cold, hey, I'm Jack, Palmer Cay. You never heard of Palmer Cay before? Well, let me tell you, man, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one thing, Andy, you've done such a great job of branding, getting it out there. That's something we need to do a better job at. We're going to do a better job at.
Yep.
But okay, if you're going to call, at least it's a warm email, a warm call. Yep. I've heard of Palmer Cay. I might read this. That, what chance went from 0 to 5 or 10, but that's still better than none. So, yeah, I can't believe that. And as far as shifting attention spans, I'm always thinking, email. Yeah, people don't like email. What can we do? LinkedIn, it's a great platform. They've updated to be more like, the TikToks or, X, but what about those other platforms? Is there a way we can target, this is something I want to get more into, but when you have your branding down, your message down, are there target ads we can put elsewhere? Where are the CFOs and CEOs? In LinkedIn, are they elsewhere? Where can we stand out? Where can we be different? Is there a way we can target those ads or whatever, or at least be, influencers? People
Yep.
make fun of them. I do too. I listen to my wife, some of the influencers.
And I think there's a big difference. There's a big difference between Instagram influencers and maybe
right.
LinkedIn influencers. Yes.
No doubt. But
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly the
Yeah.
influencer
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
right? In the, swipe up, click the link.
I've said to my fiance, I've come to learn that on Instagram, if you want to have success as a male, you have to have three things.
Yeah. What's that?
You have to be jacked.
Yep.
You have to be tattooed, and you have to have a beard.
Two.
And you have to have a beard.
Over three. If
you have those three things, you will do very well as a male on Instagram.
Yeah. And no, but all kidding aside, influence. I mean, that's people want thought of. So LinkedIn, how do we translate that? That's how people are digesting. That's where my wife. Oh, look, I love this shirt. This person, this thought leader in shopping or whatever she's looking into, has spent time doing all this, so I don't have to. I'm going to see what she likes. I like her style. I trust her. I've seen a relationship built. How do we translate that? Maybe not with a swipe up link, but maybe to the insurance, and how can we influence that way? Be thought leaders. I think we're crazy if we're not doing that or thinking about how to do that better and professionally.
I love what you just said, because branding here's how branding works today. If you have a product you follow or somebody you follow, like your wife, I'm an Apple guy. I don't know about you, but I'm an Apple guy, right? I got an iPhone, I got an iPad, I got an iMac. When I need a new computer or a new laptop, I don't go, I'm going to go compare Apple to Microsoft on this one and see who's. No, I go, what product does Apple have?
Yeah.
And the way branding works today is you want buyers to go, not how do I compare 5 different brokers? Who does Palmer and Cay have?
Can they do this? Yeah. What are they?
And I think the biggest adjustment in training we've got to make now, and this is the thing that has changed more than anything in sales. Back in the day, you and I were taught to pick up a phone.
That's right.
Call somebody who doesn't know who you are and ask for their time without delivering any value. Today, you cannot do that without building some kind of awareness. So if I could give a sales leader any advice today, it is you have to teach your producers how to build a brand and become an influencer. By the way, in our world, influencer equals thought leader.
That's right.
How to become a thought leader to your ideal client profile so that when they come to the conclusion it's time to make a change, they think of you. That's the name of the game today.
100%. Could not agree more. Yeah. And how do we do that? In what way? I've heard some feedbacks like, well, we don't want to give away what we're doing and put it all out there. And I struggle with that sometimes too. How much you share, how little, we got this great story, but yeah, it's a copycat industry. And so, hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but yeah, how to strike that balance. But we can't be afraid of that. We got to go out there. We got to show what we're doing. And, if we're the one marketing it and saying it, someone may do it, but as long as we're getting the word out there, I think it's ultimately going to be,
the more you share, the more they'll care. And the advice I give agencies that say, but Andy, we're afraid to put out a little too much because our competition might be listening. Here's my advice. Are people going to use your information to make their broker smarter? Yes.
Yeah.
They were never buying from you anyways.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And so I really appreciate this, Jack. This has been a great conversation because I think you provide a really good perspective on where we're going in this industry. You have had a lot of success. Says Palmer Cay has had a lot of organic growth success, which has been fantastic. And I think from what I hear, you guys are adapting the way you need to adapt to continue to thrive as we move ahead. I can't say that for every agency right now. Well,
thank you, Andy. And we love you and certainly, could always use your help too. So
but here we're going to have a little, we're not done yet. We're going to have a little fun because I always wrap the interview. You didn't get these questions in preparation.
It's good fun. Yeah.
We're going to get to know Jack a little bit. So I always have to end with habits, discipline. This is my jam, man. So we're going to get to know Jack a little bit more. So first question, tell me a little bit about your morning routine. What do you do to put yourself in the best position to win each morning?
Key. This is key for dads. Wake up early ahead of the kids. I'm
Nice.
talking now, whether you look, I've been trying to get a little bit, take care of myself a little better. So a little morning workout routine, in office, in home, gym. But even if it's not that, you need this. You need that mental clarity an hour before the chaos ensues. I have two little girls, and they're 7 and 5. So the storm is coming. So that hour of peace, whether it's working out, getting your head right, checking up on the news, you need that to stay mentally sharp and mentally focused. So that's key.
Okay.
Wake up early. Wake up early. Get your day started. I think you need at least an hour. Hopefully, some of that's with some exercise. Get the endorphins going, and then embrace the chaos that's coming. So
I love the advice. I can't resonate. I don't have children. However, I know a lot of people complain about not having that time in the morning. So your advice is get up earlier, get up before they do.
That was the hardest transition, that just realized this, man, I missed my mornings. And if
Yep.
you just let the chaos come to you without trying to get ahead of it, it will get you.
It will. Yeah. Okay. So you got 1 hour to do a workout.
That's right.
What is your go-to workout?
Dude, quick jog, get the blood flowing. And then, I've been, I'm the weights. I just, I luckily have some, weights. I just try to do some resistance, feel some strength, maintain some semblance of the former athlete that I was. Which
you were, what did you play? What sports you play in high school?
Football and basketball.
Any college?
No college. It's right. I had offers to go like D2, D2, Coastal Carolina or this Southern Illinois, but I didn't. I got into Georgia. I saw how much fun that was, and I was like, yeah, I got that. And I'm not exactly advancing myself education wise in some of these schools I got offered at, and I went.
That's good. That's great. I love that. How about this? You got an afternoon to yourself. What are you going to? How are you going to use that time? What are you going to do for fun if you had your choice?
If I had my choice, I like being outdoors, man. I'm luckily I have some cool clients. I mean, some outdoor rafting clients as well. I enjoy hiking, whitewater rafting. That's really fun. Just being out in nature. I enjoy golf. Just, if I had that, it'd be one of those two things, just out in nature or on the golf course.
Awesome. Any books you're reading right now or recently read that you recommend?
I finally got on the traction train. I'm in a CEO group, and they're like, yeah, I heard it. That's all I heard about. And it's like, well, we need to look into this and see if there's anything we can take into Palmer Cay. And I've heard enough about it, and I don't want to be the bandwagon jumper on, but I read that was good, and I think we're going to implement some of that into Palmer Cay, some of the ERP. So that's been the recent one. How about you?
Yeah. I just read the one I'd say most recent that I has still been like is the Science of Scaling. Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He also wrote 10X is easier than 2X, a great prequel to reading Science Scaling. Fantastic.
There. Okay.
Yeah, that's a fantastic book. All right, last question. I'm going to put you on the spot. You're in a proposal situation. Why should I hire Palmer Cay?
It's easy. So first of all, Andy, we are going to come up with solutions that your broker probably has not showed you. A recent example, we just took a client similar to your size. They were struggling with their insurance cost. We were helping them on one piece of the policy. They were trying to cancel that policy because cash flow was tight. Even with that cash flow situation, we said, hey, look, slow down. Let's look at, it doesn't sound like this is our piece of the puzzle is the problem. It sounds like it's this. Yeah, I know you need to have that. General liability, you have to have that to work with the vendors you work with. Let us take a look at that. We saved them $600,000 by switching to, not just guaranteed cost insurance. Now, there's claims in there. We brought the analytics and actuary team in there, but we're going to support you with data and give these decisions with data. And that's, their claims were running great. It's just the industry they were in, they were getting penalized. It's just a hard market, and they were paying for other people's claims. This is the perfect case scenario for, hey, taking some skin in the game. We gave them the confidence in, the numbers behind that to allow them to do that. And they were to shave and add $600,000 to their bottom line. In their case, they're running at 10% profits. That's like $6 million of revenue. We found them, right? They'd have to sell $6 million to get that $600,000 to the bottom line. We'll be your lead sales guy and we can help
I
you.
love it.
So,
You went there. You showed me how it can impact my P&L. I'm in. Love it, man. And you went with a case study, which is always good.
Yeah.
Teach me how you helped other people like me, and I'm interested. So,
yeah, there you go.
well, Jack, it's been a fantastic conversation, man. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I think a lot of people are going to like this and learn a lot from that. So one more time, man, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Andy. It was a pleasure.
Everybody else, take notes from what you hear from Jack, one of the good sales leaders in the industry. This is an opportunity to create some great organic growth right now. You leverage AI to make it easier for you, but you've got to leverage the opportunity. Don't put your head in the sand. The stuff isn't slowing down anytime soon. Be good.
Thanks, Andy.